Hey, this is the national treasure, Nick Aldis, and you're listening to the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your hosts, Tito Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and we are here live in color on 6:51 on a Friday night, because that's what we do. No days off here at the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. You know what season it is, Joe?
COVID season?
I was going to say flu season, but you know what's so weird? Extremely low cases this year. But yes, it is COVID season, but it's also WrestleMania season, baby. And just like you know what I am maturing, because I was going to sit here and make a topical, somewhat controversial reference about today's political climate and something that happened that might have caused the controversy, but I did not make the comment. Should I make that comment?
Based off of how you've described it, I would say no, that you should not make that comment. Does it have anything to do with Sami Zayn?
Actually, yes.
Okay, all right. All right, let's move on.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's just move on. Anyway, what we're going to do here is I like to do during every major pay-per-view, WWF pay-per-view that is, go back to the beginning where it all started, because as Joe can attest to, there is nothing in the world today that is better than it was in the 80s. VHS, greater than Blu-ray. Cable TV, greater than on-demand fuckery. Movies, then, greater than now. Music, Skid Row, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, greater than Bad fucking Bunny. Nothing is good in the year 2021, except for working from home. I do like the working from home thing. You're probably saying to yourself, why are you behind the banister, the stairs, and not where you are in the Wrestle Kingdom over there? Because I can't plug in a fucking charger, and that's life. But aside from that, man, we're live in living color. As I stated, we're going back to roots. We're going back to WrestleMania 1. I have completed 1, 2, 3, and I'm halfway through WrestleMania 4. And we're going to do a little bit of a hashtag retro review today of WrestleMania 1. Spoiler, not a good fucking show, Joe. Not very enjoyable. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that at this particular point, obviously being the first WrestleMania, it's 1985, right? So
actually, the year Miami Vice debuted.
There you go. It's a great year for everything. So I think that in part, they were still figuring out the formula of WrestleMania the first couple of years that they were doing it, right? In terms of the location, how they wanted to present it, over the years, making it feel like a bigger and bigger event. So really what WrestleMania 1, I think, is, when people watch it, it takes place from Madison Square Garden, of course. And it's a show that's really, they used to run the Garden very frequently back in those days. So they were always there. There was a great fan base there. And the presentation of it was really kind of almost like a standard MSG house show, but with a lot of celebrities involved, right? So Mr. T, Cyndi Lauper, Muhammad Ali, Liberace, Billy Martin, whatever, anyone others that I'm missing. But, so I think that's kind of what made the difference. But as we go through and talk about it, the presentation was just kind of like they go to Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura just kind of standing at ringside with the microphones, and then
Lord Alfred Hayes in the back was an awkward spot because like wrestlers are walking by him, and he was just like, and like it was that was tough to watch. I mean, listen, anytime you start anything, look at the first COVID era show until now, you figure shit out, right? That's kind of just the way it is. And I think WWE clearly and very quickly figured it out. You know what my favorite WrestleMania was out of the first 4?
3, 4. Okay.
I just think Trump Plaza was a great venue for wrestling, especially the stairs. I'm watching, I know we're going off on a tangent, but Warriors to the ring down fucking like 80 stairs. The dude was blown up before he got halfway. But just love the Trump the Trump Plaza.
I'm just gonna clip that and just when it says love the Trump and just leave it.
That'll be good.
But no, I do agree completely with the setup, because I think that's something that's really missing in the more recent set of WrestleManias, because some of the ways that, at least in my head, that I identify WrestleManias are based off of the main events, but also kind of a location and where it was done. So like WrestleMania 3 in the Silverdome, WrestleMania 4 and 5 at Trump Plaza, right? WrestleMania 6 was in the Sky Dome. They had WrestleMania 9 at Caesar's Palace, right? The ones that were at the Garden. Even if you get up to some ones like WrestleMania 19 was at Safeco Field. They did some more things that, but once you got to like the 20s, like the mid to late 20s in terms of WrestleManias, they all seem the same, right? It's all this very similar setup with the big pillars by the ring posts and everything. So it's hard to really differentiate stuff. And I think back then they used to mess around with the different setups and how wrestlers would come out to the ring, and they don't really do that as much anymore, which I think which kind of stinks. But yeah, I think there's certainly aspects of this that they improved upon pretty quickly. I think once they got past WrestleMania 2, I think they had figured some things out.
To me, which is weird to me, because I feel like compared to the NWA, like Starrcade 83, Starrcade 84 were a little rough around the edges. I think the quality of the in-ring product was far better than anything WWE did. And that's I'm not trying to be an NWA mark, which I clearly am, but there was more of a presence. Like at Starrcade, you didn't have Liberace. You had Tully Blanchard try to murder Magnum TA. Like, it was more in ring. It was gritty. It was that like dark, smoky arena with the fans were blocked off, and like the light was just on the arena, like the old boxing matches. So it really depends on what you like, but definitely standing the test of time. 1 and 2, not so much. 3 and on were the ones that really picked up on. But I'm not here for a long time, Joe. I'm here for a good time. I like the nostalgia feel, right? I like the nostalgia. So
yeah, I do as well. And like we said, taking place in MSG, the first show, I think adds a little bit of that to it. And the thing is, the show itself, when I turned it on the network, it only clocks in, I think, at like less than 2.5 hours. So there's only, just looking at the results here now, going back through it, there's only 2 matches that were longer than 10 minutes. So it's very different than what we see today with these, now this year's WrestleMania, last year's WrestleMania take place over 2 nights. Before that, they were going for like 6 hours. So it's very different than back then. But I think if you're ready, I am ready to dive into the card for WrestleMania 1.
I am also ready to dive into the card for WrestleMania 1, but I want to remind everybody, if you're looking for some merch, some clothing, some all night long podcast merch, you haven't found it yet. But I want you to go to our friends over at Born Scum Clothing Company. Check out their all their releases. They just got all of their hats back in stock. If you're fed up with life, and maybe not so much life, if you're fed up with people, like you turn on the news and you want to fucking bash your head against the wall, or every story like that you hear from people makes you mad, and like you're like, everybody sucks in life, and you want to express that, Born Scum Clothing Company, they make some great stuff. Positive but pissed. Check out their site over at bornscum.com, at bornscum, I think, clothing. I'm not sure. Just Google it. Just fucking Google. And use our promo code all night long. You get 10% off. Their hats just dropped. Everything fits a little bit snug. So go a size down. But Born Scum Clothing Company, really good stuff. But without further ado, let's get into WrestleMania 1, bro.
All right, man. Well, so the first match on the show, and a trivia question for anybody out there who likes to play wrestling trivia with their friends, the first match to ever take place at WrestleMania is Tito Santana versus the Executioner. I don't know much about this Executioner fellow, but I do know that he said before the match that he was going to attack the leg of Tito Santana. And I feel like giving away your strategy right before you walk out to the ring is probably not the best idea. But, that's what they went with. And Tito Santana, who looks, I believe, based off of what occurred after the match and during the match, still embroiled in a feud with Greg Valentine over the Intercontinental Championship, was victorious in this match in a little bit less than 5 minutes. So how did you feel about this as the opener? The match itself wasn't that long, but just, I guess, to kick off WrestleMania, how do you feel about it?
The Executioner was played by Playboy Buddy Rose, in case you're wondering. I did not know that. I just looked that up. So that was news to me. You know what? Tito Ortiz is good no matter where he is. He's solid. What? I said Tito Ortiz.
He said Tito Ortiz.
Yes. I fucking hate Tito Ortiz. Huntington Beach. That's, dude, so you're gonna clip Trump thing and you're gonna clip the Tito thing? Fucking, what are you gonna do? Photoshop like a MAGA hat on me? I'm gonna be the dude. You know who's gonna come after me soon? Disney. With the way I'm going, Disney's gonna cancel me next. No, sorry, Tito Santana has been solid, and he's a guy that you don't realize how long his career was, right? I think he started in like the mid '70s, and he's not going to be in a bad match. He had matches in the early '90s with Shawn Michaels, everything he did in the '80s, especially with Greg Valentine, who's a guy I would definitely want to get into a little bit earlier. But Tito Ortiz, the right call to get the Duke here with the flying jalapeno. I said Tito Ortiz again.
This is excellent.
I'm
enjoying it.
Tito Santana.
And luckily for you,
Tito,
this is not the last time that Tito Santana will appear on this show. So we get to bring him back up again later. But yes, I think the only thing I can really add to what you said is I think it was a short opening match. It was, it was lively, and Tito is a guy, I think, to get the crowd, worked up early on in the card. He was very popular at that time, as you mentioned, as a babyface. So I thought that was a decent way to start the show, even though the match was pretty short. Speaking of short matches, however, we have the match that for a long time stood as the record as the shortest match in the history of WrestleMania. And that was King Kong Bundy defeating Special Delivery Jones.
That sounds like something Taz would say on Dark, by the way.
SD Jones. Now, one thing I want to say, ask you as we get into this one, I didn't remember, or I just forgot because I'm old, that King Kong Bundy was managed by Jimmy Hart at this time. I only picked up wrestling in 88 or 89, so I was kind of more familiar with Bundy with Bobby Heenan. I did not remember that he was with Jimmy Hart, but he won the match officially in 25 seconds.
Yeah, I think it was definitely longer. They said the kayfabe time is 9 seconds.
Right.
That's what they said it was. There's no way it was a 9-second match. You know what was weird to me too? When you saw Chance go upstairs.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the best. He's so sick of my shit. I thought it was strange how they gave SD Jones some promo time before the match, only for him to get squashed in 9 seconds. I think he said, "We're gonna get down, Bundy," like 3 times, and then they just, got squashed. I have a soft spot for King Kong Bundy. I really do. When I went back and we'll get to WrestleMania 2 at some point, but I thought he had a far better match with Hogan than is remembered, and that dude could move for a big monster. So I was totally okay with it. The look was cool, and the 5, dude, the 5 count. So it was so good. But it was whatever. It was an 8:23 5-second squash. What are you gonna do out of it except for build Bundy? But if you want Bundy to main event WrestleMania 2, because at that time I would assume they probably booked that far ahead, right? I
think so. I would think that they had, but given that there weren't really any other pay-per-views at this point, if they were going to book those feuds, he would probably, I assumed Vince or whomever else was involved would try to line up the challengers for the champion down the road. So I believe that you are correct in terms of trying to get King Kong Bundy a strong win on this show so that they could use him down the line for a title feud.
And they booked him strong the entire way through it, especially with the way he destroyed Hogan on Saturday night's main event. So I have no problem. If you're going to tune into WrestleMania 1, you're going to see this just human mountain literally destroy a dude in 8 seconds and set a record. It was fine. It was fine for what it was.
Yep. Next up, we have Ricky Steamboat in a match at WrestleMania 1, which I also did not remember until I watched the show, against a pre-doink Matt Bourne. This match went a little less than 5 minutes as well. And it seemed more just like a showcase for Steamboat at this point in time, putting him over Bourne cleanly. He was the star. I think that they were going to try to build towards or around an instant period of time. And I think that's really the only thing I could say about this match other than it was fine. It's a Ricky Steamboat match, so it's not bad, but it was less than 5 minutes. So what can you do?
Yeah, it was okay. I think Bourne looked a little rough around the edges, and even the flying body press that got the win wasn't great, but it was an elongated squash for the old steamer, as they would refer to him. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
So next is one of the matches that took longer than 10 minutes. I don't know why, because it was terrible. Actually, it was Brutus Beefcake with Johnny Valiant versus David Sammartino with his father, Bruno Sammartino. This match went almost just under 12 minutes and ended in a double disqualification. And to me, the whole purpose of the match was to build to the end when Bruno would get into the ring and do something and fight off Johnny Valiant. And that's pretty much what it seemed like its purpose was to me. So I don't know why they decided to take 12 minutes to get there, unless they really felt like David Sammartino was someone that they were going to, push and build around in the future, which ended up not happening.
I'm sorry. His name is Luscious Johnny V. So if we're going to call him, let's...
Oh, okay. I don't have my glasses on today, so I apologize.
Yeah, dude, this fucking sucked. This was really, really fucking bad. Bad. I was so mad. Whoever booked, you give Steamboat 4 minutes, and you give Brutus Beefcake, who couldn't carry a towel, a incredibly green David Sammartino. So how do you It was weird because is it because he's Hogan's I don't want to say what
friend.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Hogan's friend. Which you don't need to give him 11 minutes to get. He's going to get the rub from Bruno, which Bruno and MSG is Jordan in Chicago. That's his home. He's godlike there. But you're right. 12 minutes. You know how many other things I could do in 12 minutes and watch a Brutus the fucking Barber Beefcake match? He sucks.
I feel like so. We probably shouldn't. We probably do a whole show on Brutus Barber Beefcake, but he's not. This was pre-Barber. At this point in his career, I don't think he was not good. I admit that. And I'm a fan, and he was not good at this point in time.
You really like a Brutus guy.
When I first started watching. I think 89, I believe was the year I started watching. He was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was watching at that point in time. So I thought he was okay in that period of time, like the 89, 88, 89, 90. But watching his stuff before that, it was not good.
No, it was bad. But when he was tagging with Hogan, he held his own. I would agree with that. But this sucked. It was a double disqualification, right?
Double DQ. Yep. So there you go. Speaking of
way to fucking get him over.
Speaking of work rate, the Junkyard Dog challenges for the Intercontinental Championship against Greg the Hammer Valentine. He has Jimmy Hart in his corner. This match goes just under 7 minutes. It ends by countout. So they protect the JYD by having him win by countout. Now, this one was a little bit weird, I think, and I'm trying to remember the sequence. You can maybe help me out here. Valentine got a pin here, but Tito Santana would come out and convince the referee to restart the match or continue the match, and Greg Valentine just never got back in the ring and was counted out. So I believe that's how this all unfolded. So they tried to protect the Junkyard Dog while keeping the title on Greg Valentine and continuing his feud with Tito Santana.
If I told you this finish was happening today on Raw, you wouldn't be surprised. So it's not much has changed from 36 years. I have I have an appreciation now for Greg Valentine, much more than I did back then, and even watching up to 4, like I said, I'm doing. You know what Meltzer called the Junkyard Dog, right, during this era?
Say that again?
You know what Meltzer called the Junkyard Dog?
No, I don't want to know. Do I want to know?
He would call him the junk food dog because he got so out of shape, which is sad to say. But apparently, I've never seen it. So if anybody out there has, he was a hell of a worker in the earlier years pre-85. I didn't know that. All I know is the JYD that was here, and then even had a cup of coffee in WCW in early 90, 91, whatever it might have been. But yeah, Valentine's a champion. Give the guy a solid win. Have him beat down JYD after, then have Tito come out. That's fine. You don't need the champion to run away. I mean, I guess you're that whole can't lose the title on a count out thing. You're kind of really shoving that down our throats. But I'd rather him just get a win there.
I think Mid-South is where I heard. I haven't seen it, right? But I've heard that in the Mid-South, went under the direction of Bill Watts, I believe, was when JYD was their biggest star at that point in time. So that may be the period when he had some good matches, but I'm sure there's some on the network. I have not watched a lot of Mid-South. Let's just leave it at that. So the next match, so this next match, the tag team championships, I like this match. I thought it was good. It is the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with Freddie Blassie challenging the U.S. Express of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo with Lou Albano for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Another match that didn't go very long, just under 7 minutes, but I thought that the heat for the match was good. Sheik and Volkov playing the Foreigners. The crowd was very...
Whoa. Playing the what?
The Foreigners.
Can you... Oh,
Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know. It's like when Jim Ross said Oriental the first week on Dynamite.
I don't think you could say anymore. I don't know.
Isn't the Oriental Wrestling Federation like a thing? It is.
Yeah, maybe. It could be. You told me I couldn't say Oriental, so we can keep going. Anyway, so I thought the match, even though it was relatively short, had good heat to it. The wrestling was perfectly acceptable, and the heels ended up cheating to win and became the new WWF Tag Team Champions. So really good heat for this, I thought. The match itself was solid for the time that they were given. I like this.
Yep, it was my match of the night. Spoiler. Listen, Barry Windham, Mike Rotundo, Iron Sheik, and Nikolai Volkov. Nobody's going to accuse Sheik in 85 of being the best worker in the world, but they had heat. Nikolai Volkov singing the national anthem got heat. Windham and Rotundo can work circles around anybody. For 6 minutes, it was really all action. The finish had the crowd angry. Definitely had some people throwing some shit in the ring, but I was a fan of this. I admittedly have not seen a lot of the U.S. Express, so I would love to see more of them. But it was a really good match in a time that stood out for not having good matches on the card.
There you go. Next up, we have the Body Slam Challenge. It is Andre the Giant, babyface Andre the Giant, putting his career on the line against Big John Studd and $15,000. So if Andre wins, he gets $15,000. If Andre loses, he has to retire. Bobby Heenan was managing Big John Studd at this point. Match goes just under 6 minutes. I think these types of matches are tough just because it seems very anticlimactic, at least watching it in this day and age when it's like, okay, you just got to body slam the guy, especially for two big guys, right? So if it was something where there was a regular sized man, perhaps, and a large guy, and there was something going there, but both of them are pretty big. So to me, it wasn't like not believable for Andre to slam Big John Studd. I would expect him to be able to do so. And he did, and he won the match, and he won $15,000.
Yeah, and it's tough to get heat on each other. Like when you're both that big, like that's kind of like, how do you, without cheating. The best part of the match was Heenan grabbing the bag of money and doing that bump at the end before it was everything Bobby Heenan did, especially in 85, 86, 87, 88, 90. Everything Bobby Heenan ever did was great. But him as the heel manager here, just getting the money and just taking that crazy bump over the top rope was so good. The match sucked, but it was more of an attraction than a match at that point.
Let me ask you this for sake of comparison, better or worse than Big Show versus Aki Bono in a sumo match?
Okay, so if I could put them in order, it would be Andre versus Studd.
Mm-hmm.
Then next week's announced Shaq versus Big Show. Then Big Show versus Aki Bono.
No.
Big Show is, I know we haven't talked about current stuff, but the AEW signed Paul White, who you might know as the Big Show. And I think a Big Show Shaq match now would be better than ever before, because if you look at the Big Show, he's like 100 pounds lighter than he was in his quote unquote prime. So, and I mean, he was like way overweight when he fought Aki Bono, right? He was like
I think so. I mean, there was a period of time after he got to the WWF that he gained some weight and was not in great shape. So that was probably during that period of time. But anyway, just wanted to get your thoughts on that for sake of comparison, the Body Slam Challenge and the Sumo Challenge. The semi-main event is for the WWF Women's Championship. It is Leilani Kai, managed by the fabulous Moolah, versus Wendy Richter with Cyndi Lauper in her corner. And this one, again...
Middle other night, my body. Oh, I'm sorry. Uh-oh, just want to have fun.
Again, not a long match. It was just over 6 minutes, but we have a new WWF Women's Champion in Wendy Richter. I think... Now, I'm not a wrestler, Mike. I've not been trained in professional wrestling. I don't know the ins and outs and the mechanics of how things are done. But I think the finish was botched. I think the finish was botched.
Yeah, it almost looked like she had trouble rolling through with that. It's Joe, it was bad.
It was unfortunate.
Bad's an understatement. If you she took the cross body block and then she's like, "Oh, I gotta roll through," and then she's like, ah! It's like it was a rough one. Everything about this match sucked. What? I'm just it is, man. Calling a spade. Don't worry. When we get to WrestleMania 3 and 4, it's going to be rousing reviews. But this sucks ace. It was terrible.
Fair enough. And finally, the main event of the first ever WrestleMania. Again, a trivia question. Hopefully, many people out there know what the answer is. It is Hulk Hogan and Mr. T with Jimmy Snuka in their corner versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper with Bob Orton in their corner. So a lot of stuff going on here. I don't even know where to start. Billy Martin, former Yankees manager, does the ring announcing. Liberace comes out and does the
can?
Something with the Rockettes, I believe, or I believe, I don't know. And I believe is the timekeeper, I'm going to say. Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali as a special referee. Pat Patterson, the other referee, yes. The actual in-ring referee for the match. And yeah, so this is when I started watching this match, something that I thought to myself, and I've been thinking about more and more over the years as I watch more things and, historical stuff on the network, is I did not appreciate Roddy Piper nearly enough as I should. Again, because I picked up wrestling in 1989, so he it was past his original run at that point. He was a good guy when he came back. I didn't really get to enjoy this stretch of time where Roddy Piper was the biggest heel in the business, or at least in the WWF at the time. And he is just a magnet for heat. The crowd is all over him, and Orndorff and Orton. The Mr. T thing, again, was a celebrity deal, but he's athletic enough where it's not like he's somebody that is an actor coming in. You believe that he's a tough guy. Teaming up with Hogan and all that. So the popularity of Hogan, of course, at this time was through the roof. So people were going nuts for it. And the end result was Bob Orton inadvertently hitting Paul Orndorff with the cast and Hogan getting the pin, and Hogan and Mr. T were victorious in about 13 and a half minutes.
Mr. T was so blown up in this match. It was hilarious, but he did his job. You know what's funny? You don't realize how small Mr. T is, and he's not small, right? You don't realize how the difference in size between wrestlers then and a Mr. T until he gets next to Hogan. You're like, holy shit. I will say, Pat Patterson told a funny story on WWE Roundtable, whatever that it was an app. It was the channel they had, 24/7, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said they worked Ali into a shoot when Piper and Orton and Orndorff were making fun of him and goading him on the outside. He tried to run in the ring and actually fight them. And Pat Patterson actually had to hold him back. And he's like, oh, it's part of the, it's part of the thing. It's part of the thing. But Ali's not the type of guy to kind of joke like that, I guess. So, listen, it did everything it had to. You had Cyndi Lauper on this show from the Rock and Wrestling Connection. You had Mr. T. Vince was Vince Sr. was alive at this point, right? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right, but I'd have to look. I'll look while you're talking.
I'm pretty sure they were just listen, how much money do you need to make this a success? Throw it at every fucking celebrity you could find. Muhammad Ali, an icon, cultural icon. Oh man, you know what my favorite thing is? 721 work Teams messages. Let's go, baby. Friday night. Woo! Yeah, Muhammad Ali, Mr. T in the same ring. Mr. T, A-Team was, I mean, must see television at this point. Everything the WWE, WWF wanted to do, they succeeded. Was it a 5-star classic in the Tokyo Dome with Go Shizaki? No, it wasn't. But you got people looking to it, you got people tuning into it, and Hulk Hogan was a real life superhero. So the match had enough, as Pat Patterson would say, gaga to get past what we don't have. And you had workers in the ring like Orndorff and Piper. They could do it all, man. So yeah, it was entertaining to watch, if nothing else.
And just like Vincent J. McMahon passed away a year before in 1984. So he just passed away. He ran the company up until 1982. So that was, I guess that was when he sold it over to Vinny Jr. And but he was not
Senior
there.
would fire people during a pandemic.
I don't know. I'd probably have to look up
Business practices.
yeah. When did the Spanish flu happen? Anyway, yeah.
Oh,
So
you can't say that. You can't say that.
What do you mean? I can't say that. That's
Apparently,
what it's called.
Anyway, regardless, give me your rating for WrestleMania 1 out of 10.
Oof. I'll go with a 5 because I like the tag match, the tag title match, that is. I liked the main event. And I think there was there's 1 or 2 other matches in there. The Santana match was okay. There's some stuff on there that's not terrible, but there's some stuff that's bad. So to me, it's a very mixed bag, especially it is the first WrestleMania, but it does have some nostalgic value, as you mentioned earlier. So I'm going to go with 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was grading it on the nostalgia factor at first, and then I looked at the competition, what the competition was doing. And if you compare Starrcade 85 to WrestleMania 1, I mean, it's really night and day to me. So I went with a 4.5. And my match of the night, Sheik and Volkov defeating the US Express. All good workers in that. What was your match of the night?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I think that the tag title match was my favorite match of the night, just overall, from the in-ring work, the story, the reaction of the crowd. That was my match of the night as well.
Yeah. And like we said, we're going to be doing this for a couple of WrestleManias. Let's just do 36 podcasts in a row, just all the way up to WrestleMania 36, Joe.
Can we do last year's WrestleMania next?
No, in order. So, we'll stop at like 6. That's kind of my go-to. Every year I'm like, I'm going to watch them all in a row, and I'll get to like, I don't know, 19. I'm like, that's good. I kind of have, because like you said, once you hit 20, does the nostalgia wear off at 20 for you? Is that what it is?
I think it wears off for me at 25. That's where it wears off for me, because, and I guess probably a bunch of reasons for that, but like we were saying before, the setup of the show, it seems very similar to me from 25 on. 25 was the first year after Ric Flair had retired. And so there's just, I don't know, there's just a lot to me that there was still differences in the shows leading up to that point. They were still building new stars. I felt like with Cena and Batista the couple of years before. And then after that, it kind of just became a more, we're selling the show based off of the name. Like it's WrestleMania.
You're having the show to have the show. You're not having the show to showcase Hogan Andre. You're having the show because it's WrestleMania. Like what they're doing now with like Elimination Chamber or like Hell in a Cell. Like you're not having that match to have the match for a reason. You're having that match because it's on the docket, if you will. So, right. And I think it's blatantly obvious this year with their booking going into WrestleMania. They have no earthly idea what they're doing, and they're not booking, for the show. But that's still 20, 25, 26 WrestleManias you can enjoy. So that's what we're going to do. We'll be back next week with another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. Will it be a WrestleMania show? Will it be an interview? It's possible. Will it be a mailbag? Ask the Stallion. That's a good idea. Ask Stallion some.
That's ass.
Ass, yeah. Ask Stallion some stuff. Ask
Stallion stuff. Okay, that's fine. I'll tell you right now, if one person submits a question, I will be happy to answer it on the show. If anybody submits any questions, I will be happy to answer them. at any point in time. So,
well, listen, if anybody else goes back into the archives like we do, into the annals of WWF history, and you watch the no, not annals, the annals of WWF history, and you watch from the beginning, and you watch WrestleMania 1, let us know if you think it stands up, or if it's just us looking through. We're not necessarily looking back with rose-colored glasses here. We're kind of calling a spade and basing it on like looking at the show in a vacuum, which might not be fair, but it's not an easy watch per se. But if you think it is and you disagree with us, let us know on social media at All Night Long WP. Everywhere you use social media, Facebook.com/All Night Long WP, All Night Long WP on Instagram, on Twitter. And every time I've been looking at the camera, I see Michael Myers over my shoulder, and I feel like just kind of scared the shit out of me a little bit. But let us know what you think of WrestleMania 1, or what you think of WrestleMania 2, or if there are any WrestleManias we're like, yeah, I really want to hear you guys let's talk about them, like that one guy to do. The fuck was that show? What was the UK? Well, let's wrap it up. That's it for another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your hosts. He's a stallion. I'm the enforcer, and we're tapping out.
Best friends.